They find us in the fields as we plant. They find us by the river as we fetch water. They find us in the forest as we collect wood. They are the nameless, faceless bandits, rebels, military. They abuse our bodies, take our souls, empty our guts, then throw us away. We are the trash they leave behind in their wars. We are the silent ones you see by the side of the road, the ones once called mother, sister, wife, daughter. We are the ones discarded by husbands. We are used up, defiled by other men, dirty, unwanted, unseen, unheard, undone. We are the battleground, the ammunition in a war never seen, never heard, felt only by us. Throughout the world, wherever there is conflict, women, girls, and babies are subjected to unimaginable terror. This terror comes not from the bullet or the bomb, but from the threat of sexual violence, a weapon of war that has now reached epidemic proportions. According to the World Health Organization, gender-based violence accounts for more death and disability among women between 15 and 44 years old than the combined effects of cancer, malaria, traffic injuries, and war. Mass rape in war has been documented in Bosnia, Rwanda, Liberia, Sudan, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. However, rape and other forms of gender-based violence have not been getting the public and humanitarian attention they deserve.
Gender-based violence is a new area of interest or programming in humanitarian settings. Whilst everyone working in the field is extremely happy to see that happening, we would like to make sure it remains on the agenda and that it's not just seen as a popular or a significant topic for a short period of time that loses attention and loses funding and loses the impetus.
The conflict in the DRC is one of the most deadly ever documented in Africa and has claimed an estimated 3.3 million lives since 1998.
This has become a culture of violence. Since '92, this region has been racked by violence, and it's becoming a culture of violence. So taking what you want by force, whether it's goods, whether it's other people's cattle, whether it's their land, their wife, or their child, it is happening all the time. Something needs to put a stop to this culture of violence.
This film uses the case of the DRC to demonstrate how sexual violence inflicted on women and children during conflict can destroy the social fabric of a country. International and local grassroots non-governmental organizations are doing their best to provide the care and support that these women need. The official governmental and judicial systems needed to effectively handle these cases, however, are in shambles. Doctors on Call Service, or DOCS, is a local hospital that was set up by Lynn Lucy and her husband in 1995. With the support of UNICEF, it has become a refuge for raped and abused women.
We started the program to assist women victims of violence 18 months ago. When we read the report from Human Rights Watch and realized how vast the problem is, we looked for ways to go out and find the women, to give them support, counselling, first aid, and then only the most serious cases are referred in to DOCS.
Many of the women who arrive are suffering from a debilitating incontinence caused by a fistula, a tear between the rectum and the vaginal wall, resulting from brutal gang rapes and genital torture. Not only does the fistula affect their ability to walk, but the smell and the humiliation it causes can be far harder to deal with.
They come to us in a very, very bad condition. Sometimes they will come down in a bus, maybe 13 of them together. And even for those of us who are used to these women, it's very difficult to approach them because of the smell. So once they are in DOCS, then they learn how to keep themselves clean. And the older patients, the ones who've been here a while, can help the younger ones to deal with their problem.
On arrival at docks, the women are immediately screened for sexually transmitted infections. Antiretroviral drugs that reduce the risk of contracting HIV/AIDS must be taken within 72 hours of sexual intercourse. However, most patients have had to walk for at least 4 days to reach the hospital, and they are often too late. When it's time to leave docks, many women have not only recovered physically, but they have also learned new skills to take away with them.
It's really satisfying to see the woman who leaves. When she came, she signed with her thumb, and when she leaves, she signs for her money by writing her name with a pen. Leaving here is a happy thing, and it's also a sad thing. They've made friendships here that are very, very close and deep with people who've suffered the same way they have, and they're leaving their friends. But at the same time, they're going back into society healed from a disability that they thought was chronic, that they would never get over.
For these women, however, returning to a normal life will never be easy.
One of the saddest patients we've had here, from my point of view, the one that really touched me most was this lady called Baseme. Well, she's a young girl, she's 19 now. And her village was attacked one night by the Interahamwe. And amongst the Interahamwe were some people, some young men from her own village. They were afraid that she would recognize them. So after the attack, they threw her on the ground, they beat her, and they beat her so she lost the sight in one eye, and the other eye was badly damaged. They didn't want Baseme to recognize them.
Such devastating physical disabilities can change women's lives forever. In addition, there is a form of psychological trauma caused by the rejection from their husbands and their communities that can be the hardest part of all to deal with.
Ile saju bananiangusha sasa pale ule mwana panula miguu hivi maana yake mimi nasikia sasa nisikia sasa ubote unaanza luma manani hivi mimi nasikia sabalisha nisha ndio ule nani ule komanda umoja balikuwa wanamsema sende kuma kisha sasa ule kwanza sasa alipokaka upili mwenyewe ingiaka ndio kanisio kitu kando nipistisha kasa kwa nani hapo kupaki kumkopa jinani mtoto yeye naye walimkokotaka kitu akadalisha kali na pale kabisa mbele yangu kabisa ninaanza bandia basi ile mlisha nikamata mwache basi mtoto wangu mwache msimkamata basi wao hawana vya kusema bila sai tukipiga masasi sababu alisikia sasa ile masasi wanaanza ipiga ndio ule akaisha kile sasa alina hapo yule tu.
For Marie Donatienne, life will never be the same again. Her husband blamed her for what happened and has recently cast her out of their home, leaving her financially destitute and with their 6 children to raise on her own. Having watched his 8-year-old daughter being gang-raped by 4 men, he has cut off her school fees as he sees her as unmarriageable and therefore unworthy of further education. After her ordeal, Marie was determined to move on. She and other NGO activists took a petition to the local governor in Goma, asking him to take action to stop violence against women. Unfortunately, the reaction from the governor was not quite what they had hoped for. He blames the Rwandan militia, the Interahamwe, for nearly all the sexual atrocities in his region.
Mais je dois vous souligner qu'en tout cas, le gros 90, même 99% des exactions qui sont commises à l'endroit de ces populations sont plus commis par les ex-phares, les Interahamwe, des gens qui ont fait le génocide au Rwanda, des gens qui semblent être désespérés, qui ne sont là que pour continuer à perpétrer tous ces actes de vandalisme.
With no system in place to monitor these crimes, the culprits are rarely caught. And with each military group blaming the others, responsibility for the violence is never accepted. Even with countless allegations against them, these captured members of the Interahamwe continue to place the blame elsewhere.
Hakaba rero hari regoroma igenga icyo gisirikare twabagamo cya FDLR ko umuntu ufashwe umugore bamuhanisha igihano cyo kumwica. Ubwo abantu rero bafata abagore n'abahita bigumura bakava muri abo basirikare bakajya ku ruhande, ubwo nibo bakora ibyo bikorwa ahari bibageraho. Niko ngewe nabizimaze.
Indeed, why would the culprits accept responsibility for their crimes when the judicial system is in tatters?
Pour le cas de viol, on nous a déjà interdit de mettre en liberté provisoire. Mais comme vous connaissez la situation du pays et on n'est pas payé, parfois il y a des magistrats qui acceptent l'argent pour mettre en liberté.
Although numerous attempts have been made to prosecute rapists, the locals know of only one man who has ever been convicted in the DRC. Some grassroots NGOs assist rape victims in practical ways. Seeking justice alone does not put food on the table, but learning a marketable trade does.
La plupart des victimes que nous recevons sont issues des familles pauvres. Et maintenant, après les soins, nous, on se demande, on laisse la victime rentrer chez elle, et étant donné que nos communautés ne le considèrent plus, et nous avons estimé que c'était vraiment important à ceux qui les apprennent les métiers. Maintenant, à rentrer chez elles, elles peuvent au moins gagner quelque chose pour la survie.
For some women, their bodies will heal, and maybe one day the psychological damage of their ordeals will gradually fade. This girl was forced to become a sex slave for a rebel army group for 2 years. For her, such hope is impossible.
Kule na kwa tu kukamata na kinguvu. Hata na kama kuna bibi yako mzuri sana, ni wanakufungia kumuti, wanakunyang'anya mwanamke. Vile ndio vinakuwa kule. Na mimi vile ndio walinikamata.
Elizabeth is now 17 years old. For the time being, she has found shelter with a local NGO for rescued child soldiers. But one day she will have to leave and will be forced to struggle alone to bring up her daughter, who is the product of her years of sexual slavery.
Maisha yangu mie sijegi mimi ziwazi. Juu kwetu tena leo hii ni vita. Sasa sijui kama mimi ziwazia maisha gani. Kwa vile mimi naachia tu Mungu.
Unfortunately, I don't think the problem is reduced in any way. Despite all the publicity it has received, despite all the money being thrown at the problem is not getting smaller. It seems to me to be getting bigger, precisely because there's a lot of publicity, and all the publicity says there's impunity, there's impunity. So there is nothing to frighten people who might have had the idea of perpetrating a crime, and now they know that they can do this without ever paying any consequences. And particularly I see a big increase in the number of little children here in Goma who are being raped, and that has absolutely nothing to do with the war. It is evil, disposed men who have heard that this is a good idea, and they do it knowing that they will never have to pay the price or pay the consequence.
Nikasikia mtoto analia, nikakuya, nikamkuta, eko nalala naye kukitanda. Mtoto njoo alilumiaka akamtogola kale keko mbele saka alia hivi.
According to a 2004 study by the Pole Institute, 83% of the rapes in Goma are carried out by armed men. Although this army officer accepted that it was a problem caused by the military, he explained that the acts happened in areas outside the town, which he claims are harder to control.
Nous sommes obligés souvent de nous déplacer, aller à l'intérieur. Cela ne se fait pas souvent parce que nous n'avons pas tellement de moyens.
But even if resources were made available, does he believe that there is any way of stopping sexual violence during conflict?
Non. Non, je ne pense pas. Tant qu'il y a la guerre, il y aura toujours des violences sexuelles.
In the DRC, a culture of impunity is left to fester, as justice for these crimes against women is virtually non-existent. However, in the similarly war-torn country of Liberia, women are fighting back. In 2003, AFL, the Association of Female Lawyers of Liberia, made their first major breakthrough for women's rights by changing matrimonial property law. With this mission accomplished, their next campaign is to change the legal definition of rape to include all of the sexual horrors carried out on women and children.
We have found out that over the years, especially during the war period, we found somebody who is like 53, 60, using his finger to break the hymen of a child that is about a few months old. So we decided to change it from pennies to finger to any instrument that will be used to penetrate the vagina.
Liberia experienced 14 years of civil war. During this period, 40% of women and girls were raped. The Minister of Gender, Varba Gayflaw, sees empowering women at the senior level as the key to long-term change.
We want a country where we can be free again, where women can participate in the police, where women can participate in the security forces, and where women can work and teach and do everything as well as the men can do.
Despite the positive work that is going on in Liberia, poverty and destitution continues, and victims of sexual atrocity are still in their thousands.
We're Liberia people, women. We don't got nothing. We suffer the most of the violence. We don't let violence again.
In Liberia and in the DRC, the local NGOs are able only to pick up the shattered lives of the women who come in for help. Their pleas for change at the senior level continue to go unheard.
Liberian women, we have to speak up.
As long as there is no fear of prosecution, there is no end to the magnitude of these atrocities. It is only the authorities and government officials at the local level who are in a position to stop the violence. Only they can enforce existing laws, counter corruption in the judiciary, and demand an accountable military.
We need a sustained support, not just a sudden burst of interest, but a sustained support for all initiatives that are working against sexual violence.